Hey everyone, so this video is going to be a book review, a very late and overdue book review actually. I was reached out to by Atria Books and they were very kind to ask me if I wanted to read and review Isabel Allende's new book, In the Midst of Winter. So yeah, I was supposed to upload this last Thursday at the very latest, but I got kind of sick last Saturday and I'm still kind of dealing with it. My ears were plugged and I got vertigo and I couldn't walk straight and I couldn't stand up without like veering off to the right. And it was really annoying and my ears are still relatively plugged, so it's like everything sounds muffled and it's annoying. But luckily I'm no longer feeling like dizzy and have headaches and nauseous and all that. So I'm just dealing with not being able to hear things properly. So yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and dive right into it. So Isabel Allende, she's actually a very famous woman, very famous author, and I was very excited to learn everything that I could about her. It was interesting because I actually had to write, I'm taking a modern Latin American history class at my university right now, and my professor actually brought her up during lecture one day. So yeah, Isabel Allende, she is like I said, a very famous author. Her father was actually Salvador Allende's first cousin. Salvador Allende was the president of Chile at one point, and not only is she related to him because he is introduced in the book, but she actually lived through his presidency. She lived in Chile when all of this was happening, when his presidency was still going. And the more I learned about Chile's history, the more I became really intrigued by it. And there's the section in my textbook, where is it? Yeah, this is the textbook that I have for my class at the moment. And so in the book, in my textbook, they give the facts and they talk about how the country basically went from a democracy to a dictatorship overnight. And the description in my textbook is really interesting because it was very closely related to how how she was writing some of the things in her book. My book reviews are always all over the place. I apologize in advance. I like to storytell and I like to like say things, and people usually tell me like, no, you do a good job and like you make me want to read whatever you're talking about. But I feel like I just ramble and I'm like all over the place. Regardless, this book is about, first of all, I really enjoyed it. 5 out of 5 stars. I really liked it. I really liked the cover. I always really like to analyze the covers of books, and so this is there's the characters Lucia, Evelyn, and Richard, and so I imagine, and it takes place in New York, and so I imagine that this is, you can't really see it, but this right here is like, one of the places where people live in New York, you know, so I imagine that this is Richard's house where Lucia is living underneath him, and then I'm also imagining, because it's snowing, that this is the very first, like, big event in the book. This represents that day because there's a car accident when it's raining. When it rains, it turns to snow. When it's snowing. So we have the 3 characters. They're all in the United States at this point. Lucia is an older woman. She is Chilean. She lived in Chile and then she went to the United States. Richard, who's this white guy who lives in New York. Evelyn, who is from Guatemala, and she actually moved to the United States at one point to escape what I'm about to talk about. So one day Richard's cat accidentally gets into some antifreeze or something, like something poisonous, and so the cat like starts seizing and everything, so he takes the cat to the vet. The vet unfortunately had to put the cat down, so he's bummed, he's driving back home, and all of a sudden he gets into a car accident with this other young lady, and so he gets out of the car, and mind you, it's like the middle of December, or middle of winter at least, in the midst of winter, and it's snowing and it's freezing, and all of their vision is impaired, and so he gets into this car accident. He bumps into, he hits the girl, and so he gets out of the car, and Evelyn is the one who's driving the car in front of him, and so he gets out, and he goes up to her and he's like, "Are you okay? Like, should we exchange information, whatever?" And Evelyn just seems very standoffish. She doesn't really want to talk to him. She just wants to go. She seems like she has a secret. She doesn't want to really get involved with anything more than she has to. She wasn't the one that caused the accident. So, what Richard does, he's not really getting a lot of information from this girl. So he gets a business card of his and like throws it in the car before she drives off. He goes home. Lucia is downstairs, and all of a sudden the next day, this girl comes to his house because his like address was on her. So on the business card he threw in her lap. And so he's like, okay, hi, like, you didn't really have to come to my house to, like, for the fender bender. So within the first 100 pages, like, that all happens. He invites her into his house. It's freezing outside, so he invites her in. Lucia, she can speak Spanish. Richard is a white guy. So he's like, he calls Lucia. He's like, can you come up here and help me, because there's this girl that's in my house. I don't know if she speaks English. Like, can you help me translate and, like, figure out what she wants? So Lucia goes up there, starts talking to this girl, and then Evelyn, like, after a little bit of persuasion, just starts telling her life story, telling these people everything. She lived with her mom, her grandma, her two brothers. Her mother eventually went off to go to the United States so that she could make money and give it back to them. She never really came back. She had her two brothers. One of her brothers joined the gang, that, like, the really big gang that was occurring and rising at the time. Her other brother was studying. He was trying to be a good guy. He was trying to, like, put his foot in the right door. Her grandmother was raising them, and so she kind of disowned the one brother who basically joined the gang and, like, betrayed the family. And so as the narrative continues, eventually the brother that joined the gang, he gets killed, and then the other brother gets killed also, and so Evelyn is just with her grandmother. And eventually she gets out of there and she goes to the United States. So while she's here, she is working as, like, a kind of nanny for these rich people. The problem with that is that she's undocumented, so the people that are employing her, they kind of take advantage of her. The husband is abusive, and so she doesn't know what to do. So after all this, she falls asleep. Everybody falls asleep. The next morning, whatever happens next, all of a sudden, we learn that she has a body in the trunk. So the rest of the book is just them trying to figure out how to deal with that, because now Lucia and Richard are involved with her, so they need to dispose of the body, and it's just event after event of trying to do that. So besides all that, I really, really enjoyed the writing of this book. I really enjoyed Isabel Allende's writing style. What I really love about books and storytelling is when certain authors write in a way where I can visualize and see the story and see what they're telling me in my head. So if I can read something and forget that I read 10 or 50 pages and just see it in a movie in my head, that is the kind of, like, detailed, descriptive writing that I really enjoy. One of the best ways that I feel writing makes you, and books makes you escape it, is that if the writing is good, not only does the story have to be good, because I've read books where the story was really good, but the writing just didn't pack the punch that it could have, and so it lacks a little bit. But with this book, her writing is just really fluid, and it flows, and, you know, it's not choppy, and like I said, I could see it in my head like a movie, and so that's one thing that I really, really enjoyed. And also, I was reading other reviews before or after I finished the book, and there were a lot of people who were saying that they were confused because it was kind of like a romantic comedy because of Lucia and Richard, and just Lucia herself because she was, like, a romantic. But then it was, like, interwoven with these characters that had really traumatic pasts, with the whole issue of them trying to dispose of a body. That's really dark. And I really felt that since these were people who had scars, who had gone through really traumatic events, that, you know, they represented real people. And I personally don't think that just because a person goes through something really dramatic and horrible, that they're just not allowed to, you know, get better or find love or laugh or enjoy their days, enjoy moments in their lives. I don't feel like a traumatic experience has to necessarily define every single moment of your life. I don't know, I just feel like people are so complicated that you can't really put every single thing that a person does under a microscope, because, you know, they could just have been laughing or having a good time because of the moment. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are moved on from whatever happened to them. It doesn't necessarily mean that they are healed, completely healed people. It just means that, you know, in some days are better than others, and people, you know, just live, and I don't know. But yeah, then also on the very last page when Richard says, in the midst of winter, I finally found there was within me an invincible summer. So I just, as a reader, as somebody who's been reading forever and who reads a lot of books, I always get a kick out of when, like, the name of the title of a book is in the book, or, like, in a movie or something like that. I just am very entertained by that. But yeah, like I said, I really enjoyed this book. I really enjoyed the characters. I thought they were really well-rounded characters. I really loved, especially, I think my favorite thing overall about this reading experience was Isabel Allende's writing style. I know that she has other books. Oh, this is her, by the way. I know that she has other books, and so I really want to check them out. But yeah, one of my favorite things about this book, my two favorite things about this book were the fictional, was learning the history of like Chile through Lucia's point of view. In that textbook that I've been reading for my class, there's talk about how, you know, they filled the stadiums with prisoners. The women were banging their pots and pans in like a kind of protest to say, oh, that I cannot feed my children. And so in this book, she literally talks about that stuff. Like, those kinds of things are literally in the book. So it was really interesting from the point of view of somebody who didn't know too much history about Chile, as of like a month ago, to learn about it in class, and then to learn about it in this context of this fictional character. And I really like historical fiction, especially when the history part of it is accurate, just like when they like pop in a fictional character and kind of deal with what actually happened. That's like a really cool way for me personally to learn history, is through fiction, if that makes sense. Like, I really like watching documentaries just because I'm a visual person. But yeah, in this sense where the character was put into the situation that actually happened, I felt that was like a really cool way to teach people about what really happened, because I didn't know what had happened in Chile back in that time. Like, there's a lot of history in Latin America that we don't know, that we're not taught in, you know, high school and regular education that everybody gets. So I had to go to university and take a specific history class to even learn about this. So, yeah, I just feel like authors like her are so important. Own voices books like that are so important. But yeah, I know that she's written a lot of other books, and I really want to read them because her writing was really good, and like I'm sure her books have such like events in them that you would, or at least in this one, that you wouldn't think would happen. Like, all of a sudden, hey, there's a body in my trunk. Oh, okay. But yeah, she's written books like The Japanese Lover. There's another, The House of the Spirits of Love and Shadows. That one is a novel about a passionate affair between two people willing to risk everything for the sake of justice and truth in a country immersed in uncertainty and fear. Interesting. But not only do I feel like she really grasps the importance of telling her story and telling the story of like Chile, for example. Not only that, but she includes, like in this book, there's like a romance. So not only do you learn something, but you're also entertained by like what you learned and like the romance of these characters. So like when authors do that, when they include so many aspects, when they include so many things that I enjoy in a book, that's just like a perfect book for me. When I can get a little bit of the action, when I can get a little bit of the history, when I can get some romance, get some friendships, that is everything. And when books can kind of encapsulate all that, that's like, I love it. I apologize to the publisher. They give you books and you're expected to read them after a certain time, but I just like I could barely stand straight and I was like dizzy and I could not finish the book. And I also have finals next week and the week after, so it's just been a busy time. So thank you again to Atria Books for letting me read this. I really very much appreciate it, and I actually have a couple more books that I'm going to be reading and uploading within the next like either January, February, this month maybe if I finish it. But I have two more. But yeah, I'm very excited about these next two that I'm going to read. They're called The Vikings Chosen and Anatomy of a Scandal. Super excited to read those. And yeah, I think that is it. I have so many. Okay, this is sitting on a bookcase. I literally have my laptop filming me. It's sitting on about 5 books right here. I have a stack over there. I have a giant bookcase of, do I want to show you? I was going to turn my camera over there, but it's literally a mess. But I have an entire, basically floor to ceiling bookcase. It doesn't go, I'm taller than my bookcase, but I have so many books on top of it that it like almost touches the ceiling. And then I have back up there all my Funkos, but behind that is a row of books. And then I have my nightstand, which is just turned into another book case, and I just have books everywhere. What I was going with that is I actually went through them recently. I have a video on here of me like unhauling. If you want to check that out, link it down below. But I'm selling a bunch of books. So if you would like to check out the link down below, I'm selling them on eBay. If you want to check those out, and see if you like anything, and if you're willing to get anything, that would be really cool. And that would really help me out because I have no money. Really hope you enjoyed my review. I should be having more up soon because I have the 2 books that I have to read that the publisher sent me, and then I have a whole bunch of books that I just want to read personally that I really have been dying to get to. I just recently bought Artemis. This is the other book. The Martian is one of my favorite books ever, and so the author Andy is, I don't know if it's Andy Weir or Andy Weir. Please let me know if you know. But he wrote another book. It's about the moon and about a girl on the moon. So I am so excited to read this. And then I have Ruby Carr's new book, and then I have the Mortal Instruments graphic novel that I want to get to, and then what else? Yeah, and then I have Marie Lu's newest book. I really want to finish the Wrath and the Dawn duology. I read the first one, but I really want to get to the second one. I'm about to go on break really soon, and so I have the Bronze Horseman. If you've read that book, please let me know if you loved it, because I've heard nothing but good things about it, and it's supposed to be like a romantic historical fiction, and I'm like all about that. So I want to read that during my winter break, because I have the whole trilogy, I just haven't gotten to yet. But yeah, those are some books that I really want to read soon. I'm a very slow reader, so I don't know when any of those will be up, but those are books that I'm probably going to be reading, like the reviews that are gonna be coming up first before anything else. Yeah, I think that is it. I always ramble. So yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Please leave any comments down below. Okay,